We're going to talk today about how to get rich with your TSP this year. And yes, that's TSP as in Thrift Savings Plan. Now, I know that everybody thinks 2022, this year, the market's going to go woo because it's gone woo for the last few years, right? But I'll tell you that for the last few years, people have been saying the market's going to go brrr. And so, who knows? And that's why you need, I know this is complicated, to not try to time the market. Now, that's easier said than done because everybody thinks they can outpace the market and people get sold on the hype of people who are doing, high percentages of yada, yada, yada. And it is what it is. It's not always the case, right? Day trading might make a decent amount of money, but a lot of those people don't show their losses, and a lot of those people don't show the tax implications of selling all the time, and a lot of those people don't show where they could have been if they just left the money in the stock market. So, day trading might be sexy, but it's not something that most people succeed at. Right? It's just my experience. Plus, you got the higher tax burdens and all this other stuff. What you want is you want something tried and true that you can just kind of keep going, and that's the thrift savings plan, right? And so here's what you're going to want to do if you want to get wealthy in 2022, or this year, or whatever year you're watching this, because the same stuff is going to be the same things I talk about all the time. If you're in the blended retirement system, you need to at least be matching or be putting in 5% to get that matching contribution. But if you're trying to get rich with the TSP, you want to max it out every year, which in 2021 is $19,500. I think it's going up next year. You can actually go over that limit with the matching contribution. So this year I maxed out the 19.5 and I put in like 21.5, 22,000 with the matching contribution, right? So an extra $2,000 or $3,000 that I got to put in there. And so what you want to do is put as much as you can into the thrift savings plan, especially at an early age, right? At 18, every dollar you put in is going to be worth at least $2 when you're 28, at least $16 when you hit retirement age. And so, I mean, that's at like an average 7% return. A lot of people do a lot better than that. I mean, I got 44% return this year, right? So even if it goes down next year, it would have to go down 37% for me to average out to a 7% return over the last 2 years, right? So it's hit or miss. What you want to do is you want to set a number, 10%, 15%, 20, 25. This last year I was at 60%, but whatever you can live within, within your means, right? So after your housing expenses and food expenses and whatever, put that percent into the thrift savings plan and just let it automatically go every single month. And you're going to want to make sure you're in the right Roth or traditional. So for most young service members, Roth is the way to go because you're probably in a lower tax bracket right now than you will be long term when you pull the money out, right? Because taxes will probably be higher then, and hopefully you'll be wealthy enough that you're making more money. And so you want to do the Roth for most service members. Do your own research. I've got articles about what the difference is. And you want to contribute as much as possible. Now, your matching contribution will always go to the traditional, but it is what it is. Now, on top of putting in however much you can, when you get a pay raise, so in the military, that's when you get promoted, or every other year, right? So you get a pay raise on year 1, 2, 3, 4, and then after that, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. And so every even year, after your first 4, you'll get a pay raise for time in service. And then you also get the pay raises for time in grade promotions, right? And so when you get a pay raise, you want to figure out how much of a pay increase that is and then take a small percentage of it. So let's say you got 4% pay increase. That's awesome. Maybe you take 2 or 3% of that and put it in your thrift savings plan because you were living without it anyway. And that's how you get up to that maxed out thrift savings plan early, because if you're a PFC and you start off with 10%, and then you get a pay raise to Lance Corporal, okay, now you're at 12%, and then you hit 2 years, now you're at 13%, and you just slowly increase this. Very quickly, you'll find yourself at 20, 25, 30% going into the thrift savings plan, but you're still living on the same budget that you had, and if you take, only like 2 out of every 3 or 2 out of every 4% increase, and put it in the TSP, then you're actually living on a little bit more, and so your quality of life can still improve a little bit while putting more and more and more and more into your thrift savings plan. So that's a smart way to do it. Now, let's talk funds real quick. If you do not want to do your own research, like you just don't care, want someone to just tell you where to put the money, aren't going to do any education for yourself, then I would suggest just putting your money in the life cycle fund that targets the year you turn 60. Right, so if you turn 60 in 2060, put your money in life cycle 2060. Because what will happen is the life cycle funds, if you picture it like a pie graph, they've got a small percentage in the G fund, a big percent in C and S and I, and it's much more aggressive. And then as you get older and closer to withdrawing, it starts to kind of do this until eventually it's like 30 to 60% G fund and small parts in C, S, and I. And the reason is that the G fund is like securities, right? It won't lose value. It's never lost value. But you're not going to see more than 1, 2, 3% interest. And so I actually lost a ton of money because when I joined, your money went in the G fund automatically. And I didn't know any better, so I just left it there. I would have at least double in my thrift savings plan right now. And we're talking like that's an extra 6 figures, right? I have like 115 in there right now. It would have been closer to 2 or 250. I did the math once, but now it's gone up even more since then. So, that extrapolates it even more. It would be over $200,000. I'm sure, probably closer to 250. If I had just taken it when I first started and said, hey, instead of the G fund, we're going to go into the C and S fund, which is where I currently have it, or even the life cycle fund, because I joined in 08. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? The market's going like this, coming out of the recession. And I'm earning 1, 2, 3% returns while the rest of the market's earning 10, 20, 30% annualized. So yeah, I screwed myself on that. But I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know any different. And so now, I would say, luckily now they go into the life cycle fund. So you can just leave it. And if you just leave it, you'll be way, way, way better off than I was. And if you want to, and if you want that to be, let's say you want it a little bit more aggressive, then maybe you put it at the life cycle fund that's 5 or 10 years after you hit 60. And if you want it a little bit more conservative, then maybe you set it at the life cycle fund that's like 5 or 10 years before you turn 60. And that'll tweak, when it becomes super conservative, G fund, vice, super aggressive, because you want it more aggressive at a young age. You can afford those losses, you can afford those risks because you want the higher return. And so the risk versus reward, you want that at an early age. But as you get older, you want less volatility and more stability so that if the market crashes, if 60% of it's in the G fund and the market crashes, then if you have $1 million in there, at least you'll have 600 grand plus whatever this drops to, right? Which is way better than if your whole thing is in like Forex and it just tanks, right? The next thing you're going to want to do, if you do want to understand the funds, is you're going to want to read the book Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. This book is a great overview of index funds investing in general. It talks about Vanguard funds. It compares the fees. And he specifically talks about the TSP, Thrift Savings Plan, and funds in there. He is the reason that I'm currently at 75% in the C fund, 25% in the S fund. I've also, at one point, I was 70 C fund, 20 S fund, 10 I fund. I've tweaked that a little bit here and there, but it is what it is. I'm currently C and S 75-25, which kind of mirrors the S&P 500, right? Pretty closely. And so I just want to basically just follow the 500 biggest companies, and those will change, and I will change, and whatever. Now, some people add in the I fund, which is, international, right? So you get a little extra international stuff in there. It's really up to you, completely up to you. But again, I would say don't listen to me on this. Go read his book. He's way more knowledgeable than I am about index funds, and then make your own decisions from that. Or if you're not going to do that, just do the life cycle and just set it and forget it. There are people out there who talk about like swapping funds, like you move into the G fund when you think it's going to go down, and then you move back to the C fund, and then you do. I don't like the timing of the market. I know people who've done very well doing that. I've done very well just not doing that. So, take it for what it's worth. It is what it is. I don't move my TSP fund around a ton. I basically just set it and forget it. And I think that's the simplest way and the best way and the easiest way and the whatever. So there is a seasonal Facebook group for this. I don't pay enough attention to know if it's worth a crap. Some people say it does great. I'm sure there's people who've lost money and just don't say anything. So I personally prefer just sticking it in the TSP and just leaving it. There's also stuff about rolling your TSP into a self-directed IRA or a insurance policy or whatever. I've got a lot of videos out on that. I don't think that's really the move. I think just leaving it in your TSP, even if you're a big-time real estate investor, because that's just like a diversification. That's money going into an account that's not real estate that is going to protect your ass over the long haul. And it's I view it as my super emergency fund long term. But I'll tell you, mine will be worth $800,000 plus by the time I retire. And I did everything wrong, right? By the time I hit 60, it'll be almost $1 million, if not more. And I didn't contribute enough at an early age. Had a lot of years where I wasn't contributing it at all. Had it in the G fund, right? I was on and off with contributing. Had it in the wrong fund for 7 years, 8 years. I did all the things wrong. And mine will be like close to $1 million. So if I had done it all right, it would be close to $2 million by the time I retire, right? And so that's a good living. Like, that's fine. If nothing else, for me, it's a good nest egg to pass on to the kids. So set it, forget it, let the TSP ride. Don't try to move the funds around. Don't panic when the market goes down. Just keep buying. When the market goes down, you're buying more shares for the same dollar price. It's called dollar cost averaging. And then the market will go back up, and now those are all worth even more. And when the market's high, you're buying a few less shares, but when it goes back down, it evens out. Long term, what you're wanting to do is the market's going like this, is you want to just be buying and moving along like this. So just consistently buying, not messing with the funds. I open my TSP on the 1st of every month to check when I do my net worth calculations. But I only touch my TSP maybe twice a year. Maybe twice a year I go in there and recorrect. You know, if one fund grew more than the other, I rebalance the 75-25 split. That's it. And when I get a little older, I might make that a little bit more conservative, move some of it into the G fund, take some risk out, whatever. There's my buddy Rich Carey did a blog post where he talks about a whole bunch of different ways to allocate your TSP funds, like different setups. Pretty interesting, so definitely worth checking out. I'll link to that down below. But yeah, this is how to get rich with the TSP this year. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join our Facebook group if you haven't already. The biggest military real estate investing community in the world is our community, and our Facebook group is the second largest military finance fucking group that I know of. And we're gaining, right? We're super, super cool. There's 31,200 the day I'm recording this. By tomorrow, it'll be 31,500. By the weekend, it'll be 32,000, 33,000 people in that Facebook group that are answering questions, asking questions, learning about stuff. And it's not pitching. I do a very good job of trying to manage the sales pitches and block people. So it's a very helpful group. Definitely check it out. But make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. And have a great day.